matters before, housekeeping I need to get to before I step down. First off, there will be box lunches to go after the debate in the lobby. For those of you who joined us via the buses, your box lunches will be on the bus. And if you need assistance or have any questions about the event today or need some directions for anything, please let any of our folks in the red shirts know your questions so they can go ahead and help you with whatever that matter might be. Now, we are honored today to have, as a moderator, a man with San Antonio roots, as you heard, for 22 years, whose wife is a native Texan, and whose 3 daughters are all born in San Antonio. He has been in San Antonio, as I said, for more than 22 years, and began his career as a general science reporter at KSAT television. His newscasts and news stories have been award-winning and consistently lead local ratings. He is the KSAT 12 news anchor, and without further ado, let me introduce to you our moderator, Mr. Steve Spriester.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. I didn't mean to steal your thunder with my talk earlier, but I think I did a little bit. But again, I want to thank the AARP for asking me to be the moderator for this event. And again, I turned 50 on Saturday. They had me host this thing today. They are very clever in getting people into AARP, so I appreciate that. I want to introduce the candidates now, since I've kind of given you my bio earlier. I do want to mention that Mayor Ivy Taylor is unable to attend this event because of a scheduling conflict, but she did actually confirm with AARP earlier this month that she would be here, so obviously there's something going on with her scheduling that doesn't seem to be working for her right now, so she will not be here this morning. So I'm going to kind of turn this a more intimate discussion with 2 candidates. Maybe we can call it, Tuesdays with Manny and Ron, maybe something like that, instead of Tuesdays with Maureen. We can do that. First off, I want to,
Make it the next mayor of San Antonio.
Oh, okay, there you go, with the next mayor of San Antonio, they said. First off, I want to introduce Councilman Ron Nirenberg. He's a council member, first elected to San Antonio's District 8 City Council in 2013, re-elected in 2015. Ron Nirenberg. Second, Chairman Manuel Medina, currently the chair of the Bexar County Democratic Party. Chairman Medina. And I like how they have this set up because you guys get to sit in the spotlight and I get to kind of move over here a little bit, kind of out of the spotlight. I also want to explain the rules of this debate. First off, applause is encouraged and appreciated at the beginning, before we start, and at the end after closing statements. Hopefully we can just keep this thing moving, and no applause, reaction, booing of the moderator, any of that stuff happens during the actual debate itself. The order of opening and closing statements determined alphabetically prior to the debate. The candidate that appears first in the alphabet will start the opening remarks. That is you, Chairman Medina, followed by Councilman Nirenberg. The candidate who goes last in opening statements will go first in closing statements. Each candidate will be given 2 online that we want to recognize and thank all of you out there on Facebook Live. And I believe KSAT's Facebook page also carrying this debate. People watching online will be able to submit questions using the hashtag #SATXVotes. After organizing audience members' questions into major themes, the AARP staff will provide the moderator with the curated questions to ask mayoral candidates. Now, the candidate that makes the second opening statement will receive the first question, and then we will alternate from there. The candidate that starts the question will have 90 seconds to respond. The other candidate will then have 60 seconds to rebut. Candidates going over time will receive 1 verbal warning from the moderator. After the verbal warning, the moderator will begin to deduct time from the candidate's time to answer or rebut the next question. I'm not even going to say, I don't think we're going to come to that. But I also want to introduce Joe Sanchez, who is doing the timing. He will be your timekeeper. Yellow when we're getting close, red, Yellow is 10 seconds, red is when it's time to stop. All right. Yeah. And Joe looks nice, but don't press it. Okay? And I think we're ready to begin the debate. Are you guys ready? How about a round of applause for these candidates and the AARP?
I wanted to tell everyone that my name is Rhett Smith, and I'm also a candidate for mayor of San Antonio.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, we're going to start with opening statements. And as I said, Chairman Medina, you will go first.
Thank you. There are actually 14 candidates running for mayor, including Red that just said hello to us. And I appreciate the invitation, and more than that, I appreciate that I made the first cut.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. As you know, I've been chairman of the Bexar County Democratic Party, but I'm looking for a new job. I'm running to be mayor of the city of San Antonio. I'm a successful businessman, dedicated family man, and a man of faith. I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with a master's degree in electrical engineering. Then I returned to San Antonio and I got to work. Over the last 20 years, I've managed 3 successful businesses. The first, a call center technology and infrastructure company that began with 5 employees and blossomed to 500 employees. I've run a political consulting company with clients across the state, throughout the nation, and even internationally. Of late, I run a real estate company, mainly managing properties that I own. But the truth is, my wife does most of the work, and I'm just trying to take some of the credit. So I'm a successful businessman, but I'm also a dedicated family man. I've known my wife, Jeanette, for over 20 years. We live with our daughters, Michelle Marie and Santa Sophia, on the north side, in the Dominion. People ask, in the Dominion? Well, I wasn't born in the Dominion, but I worked hard, studied hard, and I got to it. I'm also a man of faith. I pray every night, and I believe in the Virgen de Guadalupe, the patron saint of the Americas, who got over me, my family, and our campaign. My name is Manuel Medina. I'm a successful businessman, dedicated family man, and a man of faith, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you this afternoon.
Thank you, Chairman Medina. Councilman Nirenberg.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. My name is Nirenberg. I think it's quite fitting that I'm here with you all today at the AARP forum. Today is my birthday, and I wanted to celebrate it with you all. Thank you for having me. The first and most important thing you should know about me is I'm a very proud father of an 8-year-old son named Jonah. It's through his eyes I try to do all the work that we do as a city council and as a public servant. I'm also the proud husband of a woman named Erica Prosper, who really is the foundation of our family. For the last 4 years, I have been the city council in District 8, which is one of the fastest growing places in the entire state. And it's also the place where the diversity in all things most closely matches the city as a whole, from socioeconomics, demographics, to even politics. I got here in 1995 to go to Trinity University. And when I left Trinity, graduated, went to the University of Pennsylvania for graduate school. That's where I met my wife, Erica, the only other Texan in the entire program. We were choosing a city to live in to really raise our family, spend the rest of our lives, build a career. San Antonio was the only city on our list. And that's because we had both known San Antonio as a welcoming community, a diverse community, a place where it didn't matter what you did, where you were from, you could really feel like the best days of your life were in front of you. And that's really what I want all of us to feel again. I want the people who are here today to feel that way about their city. I want the people who come after us to feel that way about their city, and that's why I'm running for mayor. Over the last 4 years, we have discovered some extraordinary challenges for the city. Challenges like public safety, like the lack of a transportation system that works for everyone, like the fact that wage growth in San Antonio has crawled to near zero, while the affordability of our homes has grown to the point where the average family in San Antonio can no longer afford the average home in San Antonio. I want us to act boldly on those things, because San Antonio, you deserve a city that you can be proud of no matter where you are, no matter what you do, and no matter where you live. Thank you so much. I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Councilman. And per the debate rules, the first question will go to Councilman Nirenberg.
San Antonio elections continue a persistent downward trend in voter participation. Why do you think San Antonio has such a low voter turnout compared to other Texas cities? And do you believe San Antonio should implement any changes to its system in order to increase turnout?
Civic engagement and low voter turnout is an extraordinary challenge that I think rests on a foundation of public trust. And like other institutions, particularly in government all around this country, there is a deficit of trust. We need to make sure that public officials are held to the highest levels of integrity and who face real consequences when they violate public trust. We need an ethics code with real teeth. We need independence with our ethics review commission so they have sanction authority and are autonomous from the public officials, the city staff, and the council that they're charged with overseeing. I absolutely believe that there are things we can do within our system of governance to improve public trust on ethics and also within our system of governance in elections. I have advocated for a move of our elections to November to unify elections in a nonpartisan manner that will allow us to have greater turnout. And I also believe that we need to look at ways that we can improve our terms. We know that around the clock, it seems like, in local government, it seems like campaign time. And that influences policymaking. It makes us think that there's politics infused in everything we do. I think I would be supportive of a change in the structure so we move to longer terms so people can focus on their jobs rather than focus on the next election.
Thank you. Mr. Medina.
Thank you. As you may know, in presidential elections, we only have 50% turnout across the state. When it comes to gubernatorial races, we can expect 30% turnout. When it comes to city elections, we're lucky we get 10%. And there's apathy out there, but there's a reason to that apathy. You talk to voters, and they've figured it out. They're smarter than we think. They've found out that there's a pay-to-play culture at City Hall. That's best described today as candidates get their contributions, special interests get their special favors, and, well, taxpayers get stuck with the bill. That's one of the reasons I'm running, because I represent independent leadership, accountable to you, the taxpayer, not the city manager, not the special interests, not the paid lobbies, but to you. We have a mayor today that's going to take $1 million for special interests to fund her campaign. Thus, she will owe $1 million in special favors. She epitomizes today's culture that, I repeat, is best described as candidates get their contributions, special interests get their special favors, and taxpayers get stuck with the bill. Till we change that, you're going to continue to find individuals, especially young people, that don't go vote. Because the truth is, out of 100 people that go vote, 65% are over 65 years old, and only 3% are under 30 years old. So we need to stand up and fight back for the special interests, and that's one of the reasons I, Manuel Medina, is running for mayor of the city of San Antonio.
Thank you, Chairman. The second question goes to you, Chairman Medina. In AARP's Livable Community Survey, San Antonians 50+ identified the need for programs that would enable residents to, quote, age in place in their current homes. Specifically, 78% of respondents identified that a home repair service for low-income families and seniors was essential. What policy or programmatic improvements or changes would you make to assist with this need?
On the issue of housing and seniors, we see the problems if you go out into the community. There are seniors that are being code compliant out of their home. There are seniors that are being taxed out of their home. This mayor will tell you that she didn't increase your tax rate. But didn't she notice that appraisals rose and people's tax bill at the end of the day skyrocketed? Well, we need to do something about the tax rate, and we need to do something about appraisals. And under my leadership, if your appraisal rises, your tax rate will go down. Under my leadership, we will work with Democrats and Republicans to rein in the Bexar County Appraisal District, because it makes no sense. Your neighbor builds a bathroom, and your tax bill goes up. It makes no sense. We need to rein in the Bexar County Appraisal District so people, seniors, are not taxed out of their home. Then we have the issue of code compliance, where unscrupulous investors are in the community knocking on your door, asking you to sell your home. Of course, you say no. But then they poke around, look around, and find problems with the porch, with the garage, with the backyard. And then they run to the city and code compliance. Next thing you know, you have an officer at your door telling you you have to fix this, this, and this, and it's going to cost you $3,000. You don't have $3,000. So next thing you know, many seniors have been forced to sell their home. So we need to address the issue of code compliance. And then when it comes to the bond, we're in effect giving away $20 million to developers. That $20 million should be going to help you fix issues with your home. Thank you very much.
Councilman Nirenberg.
I think every San Antonian deserves the opportunity to age in place, meaning that they can afford the home that they live in and that it's also accessible to them as they age. We know there are tremendous challenges with affordability. We know there's tremendous challenges with the actual accessibility of homes, particularly those that are decades old. So what I would like to see happen is better utilize our community development block grants, our home funds, to focus on retrofitting accessibility measures for existing homes. Things like zero-step entry, rails and bathrooms to improve the homes that you live in so that you can stay there in a dignified manner as you age. In addition to that, affordability needs a huge focus from the city of San Antonio, which is why one of my top priorities in the first 100 days of office is to deliver a comprehensive and compassionate housing policy for the city that allows us all to age in place regardless of age. I think that's important because we know that many communities, especially those with higher levels of home ownership, are also those areas that are most vulnerable to tax rate increases. We have to look at ways that we soften the blow of tax appraisal increases by reforming the appraisal process, but also doing what we can as a city to cap the level of rise for many communities that have been there for years and years. And then from the other standpoint of affordability, we have to work with our utility agencies to slow slow the rate of growth in utility rates, and not just relying on affordability programs, but actually improve our conservation so that we can slow the growth of utility rates in general.
Thank you, Councilman. I want to follow up on this question a little bit, and I'll start with you with an additional question, Councilman Nirenberg. One of the major differences between the two of you, one, if not the only one, is the bond election that's coming up as well this May. Why are you such a strong proponent of the bond?
I'm a strong proponent of the bond for many reasons. And the first one is that we have to acknowledge that we are a growing community and that no matter where you live, no matter what zip code you reside in, you deserve a beautiful San Antonio. So the bond program does an extraordinary job of starting to invest in areas that have seen disinvestment for so long. Your streets, drainage, sidewalks, the basics that you rely on. 70% of this bond is in those basic necessities for a growing city. In addition to that, we can't just simply be a city of streets and sidewalks and drainage. And we assembled 160 citizen volunteers to determine where our investments need to be in other things that we rely on, like libraries and parks, the things that make us a beautiful and livable city. Because we know in San Antonio, our livability index is below average, and it's not because of just streets and sidewalks, it's also things like educational opportunities, parks, and green space. We need to improve a whole city. In a strong fiscally managed city like San Antonio, we want to make sure we assemble a great menu of bond projects that touches the entire city. And I think the citizen volunteers who have directed this bond program, have done exactly that, and that's why I will have my full support.
Chairman Medina, you have come out against the bond that we will be voting on in May. Why are you so opposed to this bond?
This bond is $850 million. Okay? $650 million are actually going to things we need. But $200 million are going to friends of the mayor. When it comes to the $650 million that I support, streets and drainage, flood control, parks, rec, library, is going to basic needs that we all support, $650 million. But what I don't understand is, why do we have to give away $200 million to get that? Because do we really need to pay $50 million to beautify Broadway when we have so many needs in our city? Do we really need to give away $25 million to Zachary Corporation to build a hotel downtown? They want to build it, good, but why do we have to pay for it? Do we need a $15 million land bridge on the north side at Phil Harberger Park when we know if that park was named Felipe Hinojosa on the south side, it wouldn't get a dime? Do we need to give away $10 million to UTSA so they can build a gym? Take a step back on that. UTSA is part of the UT system. And I'm a Longhorn, proud UT graduate. One of the wealthiest universities in the world. But we're going to give them $10 million. So in the last 30 seconds, I've outlined how we're giving away $100 million to Friends of the Mayor. It's actually in the range of $200 million. And they're getting this money because they have paid lobbies. Well, on May 6th, with the Lord's blessing and your support, I will be elected mayor of the city of San Antonio, and I will be the paid lobbyist of the real needs in our community on the south side, the north side, west side, and the east side.
Councilman Nirenberg, how do you respond to some of the things? I certainly don't expect you to defend the mayor, but I do expect you to maybe talk a little bit about the bond and some of the charges that the chairman made.
Well, I'll say a couple things. One is that the parks or any other issue on this bond, there are priorities and there are compromises that have to be made. You are not going to drive on every single street that's invested in the bond. You may not even visit every park that is invested in the bond, although I hope you will. They're all very beautiful parks. And that's the point, is that it doesn't matter where you live in this community. You deserve as good a community as anyone else, whether you're on the north side or the south side or the east side or the west side. This is one community. When you take off, if you're flying over San Antonio, you don't see district boundaries. You don't see railroad tracks that mark one community from another. You see one San Antonio. And if we're going to invest together, let's make sure that we have citizens to do it, to identify which priorities are good for the entire city, and that's what this bond does. I would be happy to visit with you about Harberger Park or UTSA or any of the other packages or projects in this bond. And I believe they are a very strong proposal to help us become a great city for all San Antonians.
Thank you. Let's move on to transportation now. In AARP's Community Conversations with San Antonians 50+, transportation options identified as a critical necessity, particularly as one ages. In your quest to value multimodal transportation, how will you provide the essential leadership necessary to increase funding for our current bus system to begin improving routes available and route times? Chairman Medina.
Okay, you mentioned his proposal, his multimodal plan. That's specifically his plan. Let me tell you a little bit about my plan. When it comes to transportation, there's a number of issues that we need to face. And we need to address the ones we can address immediately. Start today. The first thing I will do is identify the top 50 corridors in the city. Improve drive times by 10% in my first 6 months in office. That way, therefore, you'll be out of your car, in your home, and able to spend more time with your family, starting with the top 50 corridors in the city. Second thing, I'm going to invest in VIA. The more ridership we have, the less cars on the street. We're going to support the Ray Saldana resolution that this council failed to pass. It was going to provide additional funding for VIA so we can expand routes and increase frequency. I plan to have a leadership role on making sure we have 6 votes on this council. 3, we're going to work with local businesses to incentivize them on having more of their employees work from home so that their employees that do work at their headquarters can get there at off-peak time hours, leave at off-peak time hours. So working with the time they go in and they go out. Additionally, I've said that we need to start with commuter train from San Antonio to Austin. It has traffic-ish benefits, it has economic benefits, and once we get done, I've said we're going to build San Antonio to Monterrey.
Thank you, Chairman. Councilman Nirenberg.
Well, whether you're a single mom trying to get your son to school on time or get to work on time, or you're a retiree trying to get to a doctor's appointment, the challenge with our transportation system is that more often than not, when you get out on the road, you're stuck in gridlock. We've got to change that. We've got to focus on those bottlenecks that you sit in traffic by building more capacity. That's a first priority. But we also have to improve the bus service in San Antonio, particularly on these areas of town where it's not a choice, it's a necessity. And that's why I voted to support the amendment to improve bus services. We have to bring that back. How do I think we will bring that back? When we have a new mayor to put it on the agenda. We also have to build a mass transit system for the city of San Antonio, something that this city has not done in our lifetime, has tried and has made excuses not to bring it back to the voters. I have been very clear on this issue. I will bring to voters in San Antonio the plan to implement a mass transit system for the city of San Antonio to actually get us to have a choice of whether or not we want to sit in gridlock on a daily basis. That is a clear difference, and I don't want you to leave here without knowing that about me. When it comes to a modern transportation system for the city of San Antonio, the reason why we are considered not livable is because we lack a mass transit system that truly works. I will bring that to your ballot box as your mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Next question for you. Studies show that individuals 50 plus make significant economic contributions to their states and their local communities, but job training for older adults who want to learn new job skills within their job or get training in a different field of work is lacking. What policies and programs would you implement to support this economic engine referred to as the longevity economy in San Antonio? Councilman.
Okay. While training, job workforce training, even literacy programs are important because you deserve an opportunity to engage in the 21st century economy. It doesn't matter what age you are. So I will continue to support those programs at work, particularly those that are situated right here at the Alamo Community Colleges. Technical training opportunities, workforce opportunities for the young and the old. We should support those, and I will continue to use that as a backdrop for everything that we do in terms of workforce development. In addition to that, I think we need to work more closely with our small business community, to give them opportunities to be available and to have access to contracting opportunities. We also have to do the same thing with our centers that focus on entrepreneurship programs to connect new businesses with opportunities to engage in the marketplace. And then finally, I want to mobilize the private sector. There's no better job creator in the city of San Antonio than a business owner, small business owner, medium-sized business owner, you name it, entrepreneur. There's no better job creator than somebody here in San Antonio that has made a success by doing business in the city of San Antonio. So rather than creating jobs based on tax abatements and tax incentives, I plan to mobilize the private sector and help them bring jobs to San Antonio, grow jobs in San Antonio, and make sure that you, me, my son, your family can benefit from job creation.
Chairman Medina.
Thank you. Specifically, what I plan to do is at the city, implement a policy somewhat like we have with veterans, that we give veterans priority when it comes to new hires. It could be veterans and seniors. Secondly, when it comes to businesses that want to do work with the city, remember, the city has a $2.4 billion budget where we hand out contracts. We're an economic engine. Well, companies that will give priority to veterans and seniors should be given priority when it comes to contracts from the city. 3, working with private business. Incentivize them to hire veterans and seniors. Like we do on the front end to attract companies to San Antonio, giving them tax abatements, discounts on their water and utility rates. We could do that on the back end too, so that they could hire more people and give seniors and veterans a priority. Additionally, I'd like to help you create your own job, because there are a lot of entrepreneurs here, a lot of experience here. If you can create your job, that's the best job you'll ever have. And to do that, I want to create a business-friendly environment where we address tax rates, appraisal rates, SALS and CPS rates. But at the same time, we address and reform the City of San Antonio procurement process. Because last year, when we handed out $400 million in commodities, only 0% went to African Americans, only 2% went to Hispanic Americans. So we need to address the issue of helping seniors, small minority and women business owners, including veterans and our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Next question for you, Chairman. how would you approach some, certainly not all, but some of the top health challenges of San Antonio's 50-plus population as identified in the 2014 AARP age-friendly survey? Two of those specifically, obesity and diabetes. Certainly issues that go beyond 50-plus as well.
Well, certainly with our Metropolitan Health District, working with them would be the solution. As you know, they deal with environmental health issues, whether it's the environment and air pollution, and they're even in the community when it comes to basics like rating restaurants and, well, the sanity grade that they've been given. But when it comes to community health and the issue of diabetes and oral health, it comes to the issue of education. Because we grow up, especially in our Hispanic household, the issue of diabetes, we're really not even aware of it. How do we prevent it? What can we do to make sure we're not a statistic? So it begins with education and working with our Metropolitan Health District, that's where it begins. But there's also other issues. Teenage pregnancy that we need to address, continue to address. And when it comes to a recent spike that we've had here in San Antonio and Bexar County, when it comes to mortality rates, and when it comes to low-weight births, again, the issue of education is central and would be a common theme on all these issues to me.
Councilman Nirenberg.
First, I'll let you know that the city of San Antonio, the mayor of San Antonio, cares about your health, your personal health, because your personal health ties into community health. And it's a stark reality that the place that you live, the zip code that you reside in, has a correlation with what kind of health outcome you can expect. And what that teaches us as policymakers is to better invest in our communities. Infrastructure, services, affordability, all those things relate back to whether or not you can eat healthy at night, or whether you can spend time going to the gym or taking a walk. Those things matter, and so I will use that data through our Bexar County Health Collaborative to better inform the investments we make as a community. In addition to that, to target specifics on obesity and diabetes, we have to work on things like making sure that healthy foods are available in all neighborhoods. Food deserts are an extraordinary challenge for this community, but it's also an opportunity to do a much better job. Things like healthy corner store initiatives that make sure that whatever corner store is located within your neighborhood is incented to have healthy foods available to you. And then, of course, education throughout our community. I talk to many people. I'm a former health consultant myself, and I talk to many people who are just unaware of how to eat healthy or how to live healthily. And I want to make sure that all that information is available to you through the city of San Antonio and through our health collaboratives.
All right, Councilman, we're going to go back to the bond now. As you know, about 1/3 of San Antonio's city population, 50 plus, that will continue to grow to about 600,000 people by 2020. Are there specific elements of the proposed city bond that contribute to ensuring San Antonians 50 plus can live their best possible life regardless of the zip code? And if so, what are those benefits?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it, because I think this continues to underscore the reason why I think the bond deserves all of our support. One of the most important livability index measures that we are not getting right as a city is green space. And so this bond in particular makes it so that more people who live within a mile of a park can access the park, or more people in San Antonio have a park within their neighborhood. And not just any park, not just a blank piece of land, but a place that you can go and get physical activity in. Some of the improvements within our parks, for instance, make accessible exercise equipment or additional opportunities for us to be fit as a community. And then the other areas are we are investing in our library system. Opportunities that are happening in our library system right now connect you to technology, connect you through technology to opportunities to improve your life, from jobs to creative outlets to anything else you would expect from a fully functioning city. So there are many elements within the bond that gives us confidence that it is serving our entire community, not just parts of town, but also all ages.
Chairman Medina, you have been a critic of the bond. Is there something in there that you like when it comes to livable communities, when it comes to helping people that are 50 plus specifically?
Well, like I said earlier, I support $650 million in this bond. And that includes basics like streets and sidewalks, like addressing flooding with flood control and drainage, investing in our public libraries, our public parks. There's about $650 million. But there's $200 million that we're giving away. We're giving away to special interests. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that it's $850 million. We are, in effect, maxing out the city's credit card. Under the current financial structure that we have at the city, the tax rate, appraisals, and a number of factors, it's maxing out our credit card. It's like you getting a credit card in the mail from JCPenney for $3,000, and that same day going to JCPenney and buying $3,000 worth of clothes. You might need a lot of clothes, but is it fiscally responsible? No. Same thing here. $850 million, we have more than that in needs. But we're maxing out the city's credit card. So I have an issue with the amount, and I have an issue with the $200 million that we're giving away. I would have been more comfortable, like I've said, if for some reason this bond fails on May 6th, then what I will do, I will take the bond, cut out the $200 million that we're giving away, and then the $650, put it to a vote in November, because there's a lot of good things in there.
Thank you. Next question, we're going to talk about parks some more. In many cases, it's not enough just to build green space. In recent years, San Antonio has made some strides in developing green spaces and parks. However, issues like crime and stray animals remain a deterrent for many. What will you do to address safety issues? Chairman Medina.
Well, there you go. We're going to spend almost $15 million building a land bridge on Harburger Park. Okay? I don't know if you know where that is, but it's on Wurzbach Parkway on the north side. It's a pretty big park. Got two sides of it. Most people either go here or most people go here. And right now, there's been an issue because some wildlife crosses the street, but to address that, we're going to invest $15 million. Do we have other more urgent needs? I think yes, and it brings to light your question. For those $15 million, we could have some of those safety phones at each park here in the city. So if you have an issue, there's a phone right there, and you can call and get help in your moment of emergency. With those $15 million, we could have more park police to keep you safe. With those $15 million, we could keep parks open earlier and longer. With those $15 million, we could install lights through trails in the parks we have. So $15 million is a lot of money that we're giving away simply because special interests in this city run the city. And well, I'm calling them on that because I believe that those $15 million would be best invested, like I said, in the parks that we have today to address safety.
Councilman.
You know, I got tired of the headlines, and I visited with a family member who lost a child within the park system. A terrible but isolated incident. In response to that, I listened to the outcries of the community that we needed to make sure that not only were our parks beautiful, but they're also safe. So in 2015, I launched an initiative that is now part of the park's infrastructure to ensure that as we grow our park system, we actually include safety mechanisms within that. So as part of that, this is what we are doing. We're including better trailhead resources for trail stewards, for park stewards, those volunteers that go in and make sure that we're just present and watch our neighbors to make sure they're safe. We also include funding for more undercover police officer presence within the trails. In addition to that, we have money in there, and we ensure that this infrastructure is part of every new trail and park development. That is the trailhead cameras to make sure that your property is safe if you park at the entrance of a park. In addition to that, it's not just crime in terms of safety, it's also making sure you're personally safe as you're walking throughout a park and maybe get lost. So we have better wayfinding. We also have those blue light cameras installed in most remote areas of parks, and they're beginning to be installed in older parks. So We've done a number of things to improve the safety of our parks because this is the one truism. Whether you're someone who has a grandson walking in the park alone or you're a parent who wants to let their children go in there, you want to make sure they're safe. And when we know that part of the infrastructure is there, you can be confident about that.
Thank you, Councilman. Workers ages 45 to 74 report that age discrimination persists in the workplace, and 2/3 say they have seen or experienced age discrimination on the job. Among people in this age group, women are more likely than men to say that they have seen or experienced workplace age bias. What is the city's role in combating workplace ageism? Councilman.
Workplace ageism we know exists, and the city's role is to make sure that we are listening to our neighbors and addressing that when it happens. I plan to leverage, just like we would any other non-discriminatory policy for the city of San Antonio, that we are enforcing non-discrimination in San Antonio, that we are using our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, for instance, of being able to receive complaints when they happen. In addition to that, with regard to gender bias, we want to make sure that our Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women, for instance, is aware and available to provide resources to people who have experienced this kind of discrimination and help inform better policymaking. And then finally, we want to make sure that through our Veterans Commissions and through our age-friendly commissions, our Commission on Elderly Affairs that is both a city and a county responsibility, that those organizations are charged with stewarding our community, that we should not accept any form of discrimination, whether it's on the basis of gender, age, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or any other matter. This is a city that should be inclusive. It should be inclusive in our private homes. It should be inclusive within our employers as well.
Chairman.
Thank you. I mean, as chairman of the Democratic Party, my goal certainly was to win elections. But unlike previous administrations, my objective was to advance an agenda. And as chairman, we've worked together on a number of issues, whether it was passing pre-K for SA, standing up for veterans in the Hazelwood Legacy Act, making sure that police officers are not immigration officers. We've also fought for equality. Together, the community rallied around our non-discrimination ordinance 2 years ago. And this non-discrimination ordinance, to my sadness, has just been put on the shelf. It hasn't been implemented in terms of having people to make sure that if there are people being discriminated, whether it's seniors or based on women or issues of equality, that they have somewhere to go so that then we could do something about it. Because once people know that there is consequences to discriminatory behavior, then they'll follow the law a little bit closer. That's why lately I've been championing that at our 311 call center, that there should be someone there that could actually take this type of complaint. But what's the problem? Well, we have the worst 311 call center in the country. You call it, good luck at someone answering. That's a little different than our 911 call center, which isn't too hot to begin with, but 311 call center, when you're calling for a complaint with a neighborhood issue or whether it has to do with people violating our non-discrimination ordinance, good luck in someone answering.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, we said we were going to take questions from the audience and take questions from online because this is being live streamed on Facebook Live on both the AARP site and the KSAT site. So bear with me. I'm going to read through some of these questions here, but the first one will go to you first, Chairman Medina. They say, we have lived in our home in District 2 for 40 years. Last week, we finally got a library. We are thankful. But for the last 10 years, we've had to live across the street from an abandoned house. What would you do about abandoned residential properties? Complaining to City Hall has not helped. Chairman.
Well, I hear there most often than not that a citizen calls the city or tries to reach out to the city and there's simply no one there. First thing I'm going to do is what I'm doing today. I'm running for mayor of the city of San Antonio to represent the taxpayers and the citizens. Because when Zachary Corporation calls, their phone call gets answered. When people getting the $50 million on Broadway and the $15 million at Harburger Bridge and the $10 million at UTSA, their call is being answered. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not beholden to the special interests. The mayor is going to take $1 million. Therefore, she'll continue to take their calls. I'm self-funding my campaign because when you call, I will answer. When I'm mayor, I will make sure that city staff and city departments take your call and answers. When I'm mayor, I will return this city to you. Because what we have today is a city manager that's beholden to special interests. And I've been clear from the very beginning. On May 6th, we will have a new mayor. On May 7th, a new city manager. A city manager that will be attentive to your needs. When this city manager came to San Antonio, she brought together neighborhood associations, homeowners associations. And when they met, they gave to her their neighborhood plans because they know what's best. But she took those plans and did nothing with them because she thinks she knows what's best. And that's the kind of city government we've had since she's been there. One in which they think they know best, and they're going to do what they want to do regardless of your call or your need or your issue. On May 6th, we're going to change that.
Thank you, Chairman. Councilman Nirenberg, what would you do about dilapidated properties that have been there for years and years and years and nothing gets done?
Was this submitted online?
No, I don't know if it was submitted online or...
Was there a name on it?
There was no name on it.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to directly address that person because I will tell you this. Your complaining has worked. And I have to give a shout out to my former colleague, Diego Bernal, who's now serving at the state. But in response to your complaints and many others like it, we have actually finally established a vacant housing ordinance for the city of San Antonio that is targeting those homeowners that are not living there but are dragging down their communities. So we're working, and that's hopefully what you're seeing in your neighborhood. We will continue to support it. In fact, I talked to the department head just recently, last week, about how we can do a better job of that. Of course, there are some limitations to it because of state law and private property rights, but we are going to aggressively ensure that doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in, you will have a great community that isn't brought down by homeowners that are not doing their part to be good neighbors. We have to also make sure that, though, while we do that, we have a compassionate and comprehensive housing policy. Because as neighborhoods are improved, as infrastructure is invested in, the likelihood of your tax bill going up rises. And that's a concern because we want to make sure, particularly people on fixed incomes, are not forced out of their homes as a result of their improving neighborhoods. So my goal will be to not only are we ensuring that neighbors are being good neighbors, but also we have a housing policy in place that doesn't make it less likely that you can age in place.
Thank you. I also want to point out that I appreciate all of the questions that we've got, and we actually have more questions than we're going to have time for, but what we can ensure you is that each of your questions will be scanned and shared with the candidates beyond this event. But the next question that we have from the audience, either here or online, is for you to start, Councilman Nirenberg, and it has to do with growth. This person says, many of our older neighborhoods are also home to our older residents. The SA Tomorrow comprehensive plan focuses on high-density infill growth in many of these neighborhoods. As mayor, how will you balance the goals of SA Tomorrow with the needs of older residents that can be vulnerable to the pressures of changing neighborhoods?
Well, this is probably the most important question we have to answer as it relates to growth, because you should have a great community to live in, whether you live far outside of 1604 or you live inside the loop. And this is why I think one of the most important policy issues that we have to take up is how we rein in sprawl. Sprawl has taxed our infrastructure dollars, so it's less likely that you're going to get a neighborhood street improvement. It also has meant that we are stretching our public safety dollars, so it makes it to where response times have also increased over the years. So we have to address this issue. And it is also one of the reasons why I did not support the annexation plan, because we want to make sure we take care of the square footage that we have within the city of San Antonio today before we start taking in new neighborhoods. First thing I would do is make sure that neighborhood plans, the one that you have probably in your own neighborhood, is the fundamental building block for the comprehensive plan. Everything we build over that needs to make sure that it respects your neighborhood. We also have to use that data and that plan to better invest in those communities that have seen disinvestment over the years. That street that you drive on that's been 10 years since it's been resurfaced, that needs to be better addressed, and with a more focus on managed growth, smarter growth, we can do that. And then finally, I would say that we have to make sure that regardless of what happens with the comprehensive plan and the planning process, it's only as good as the paper it's written on if we don't implement it. So we have to focus on implementation and making sure that neighborhoods have balanced voice and have a role at the table for any planning conversation.
Thank you, Councilman. Chairman?
Thank you. The first thing we could do is elect a new mayor. Second thing we can do is appoint a new city manager, because only that way will we have new priorities here in town. There's the discussion of SA tomorrow. And frankly speaking, I'd like to have a discussion about SA today. Bottom line is, there's a legitimate concern in this community that this mayor is out of touch. That all she focused on is the 1 million people coming to San Antonio over the next 25 years. Their jobs, their safety, their infrastructure. Well, how about the 1.5 million that live here today? Our jobs, our safety, our infrastructure. How about addressing the problems that have plagued our community far too long? Generational poverty on the west side, institutional violence on the east side, nightmare traffic on the north side, and the lack of basic infrastructure on the south side. No one expects the mayor to solve these problems overnight, but they do want a mayor that cares enough to start today. So instead of talking about SA tomorrow, I'm changing the conversation to SA today.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have some Facebook questions I want to get to. This is David from Facebook. Chairman Medina, how involved will you be with SAHA? Residents have complained about safety issues and nothing gets done.
Well, certainly when it comes to affordable housing, low income, and Section 8 housing, we have a number of issues here in the city of San Antonio. When it comes to public housing, we have a wait list of over 50,000 people as last I saw. So there's a big issue, and we need to work with the federal government on getting more grants and loans to go about having more living space. But also, we need to bring together our rules and regulations and make sure that they fit with the state's rules and regulations. Once we do that, we can actually get funding from the state to actually build out more. But the issue of affordable housing goes beyond just low income and Section 8. It goes to the average person. Just 3 years ago, the average house here in San Antonio sold to $150,000. Now, today, it's at $225,000. Who can afford a home? Even you have two working parents making good money, it's hard to own a home. So we need to address affordable housing. The way we do that, I believe, is by spreading it out across the county, trying to direct some of the building, the new growth, to different parts of town, whether it's the west side, south side, or the east side. Make it affordable, make it incentivize businesses to build there so that they can make a profit, and you build nice communities, and people will have a place to stay, and will lower the pressure on house prices.
Councilman.
Well, thank you for your question, David. If you are given the long lines of wait lists for getting into a SAHA unit, if you are lucky enough to get into a unit, the city needs to understand that you are willing to work so hard to get an affordable place to live that you are trying your very best to make it in this community. SAHA needs to be closely involved with the city of San Antonio so they are recognized as residences of opportunity. Those people that those folks that we serve, constituents of ours, who are in SAHA units, need to make sure, the folks at SAHA will need to work with them to make sure that any struggles are being met with compassion, that we address issues of affordability immediately, and that we treat every resident in a SAHA residence as important to the city. I want to work to make sure that there is access to SAHA units, that we also are investing in technology through programs like Connect Home, and that we work with all residents in SAHA units to ensure that they have a chance to make it and be successful in this community just as anyone else.
Forrest from Facebook asked a question, and I'm guessing this has to do, how can the city protect our retirements? Councilman.
Can you repeat the question?
How can the city protect our retirements, or how will you as mayor protect our retirements? It's Forrest from Facebook.
Well, first, we can work on affordability of every aspect of life in San Antonio. One of the challenges that we face right now is that we're seeing the cost of living rise in every aspect, to the point where the average family in San Antonio can no longer afford the average home. And the amount of a person's paycheck, a family's paycheck, that is going to pay for rent, for instance, is going higher than the average. So we need to make sure we work on affordability. That goes with making sure that development, that it occurs in areas that are more sustainable, that we're not simply tax abating and incentivizing every development that we want to see in the city of San Antonio, but that we actually make it profitable to do affordable housing. And we also have to slow the rate of growth of utilities, utility rates, the bills that you get in the mail every single day. All those aspects of affordability will help with ensuring that you have a place that you can afford and that you are able to save and protect your retirement.
Thank you. Chairman Medina.
It goes to the point of you being able to keep more of your money. And I said earlier, this mayor said she didn't increase your tax rate, but appraisals rose and your tax bill rose. What I will do is make it a point. If your appraisals rise, your tax rate will go down, number one. Number two, we will rein in the Bexar County Appraisal District because it's gone rogue. I mean, it makes no sense, like I mentioned earlier. Someone builds a bathroom next door, your tax bill goes up. Three, we will challenge every single SAWS and CPS tax rate increase because I'm not beholden to special interests. I believe we already have too many six-figure salaries at City Hall, and we're going to cut those pet projects that this mayor has today. I support Senate Bill 2, which limits the growth of local government. What this bill says is if I collected from y'all $100 last year, I can only collect up to $104. If I need more of your money, then I've got to take it to a vote, and you've got to approve it. But this mayor insists on that she can tax you as much as she wants. Well, we're going to limit the growth of local government. I will challenge Democrats and Republicans, power brokers on both sides of the aisle, when they stack the deck, game the system to get more of your money.
The next question has to do largely with segregation. I know there's an economic study that called San Antonio the most segregated city in the United States. So one person asked, what are you going to do about segregation? Another person says, why doesn't the city spread the wealth and bring desirable stores like Costco and Trader Joe's to other parts of the city? Everything is located on the north side! Exclamation point. Chairman Medina.
Well, we're the 7th largest city in America. We're the capital of South Texas, and I love our city. But we are also the most economically segregated city in America. Income inequality has risen to a point that 20% of our people are living in poverty. And these are real people. Seniors living on a fixed income, working families trying to pay the bills, kids, 1 out of every 5 are living in poverty. So we need to address this issue because it's a citywide issue. In 68 of our zip codes, in 31 of them, people are living in poverty. Neglected infrastructure, substandard housing, high crime, low-performing schools, host of issues. So it's a citywide issue that's come to a boiling point where 19.8% of the people in San Antonio live in poverty. Experts in this will tell you that once you get to 20%, you're going to see the effects of poverty, beginning with skyrocketing crime. And what have we seen over the last year? 23% increase in just general crime, 63% increase in violent deaths. So we're seeing the effects of it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to work with our faith-based organizations, our community partners, our nonprofits, because they are on the front lines addressing poverty. There's a gentleman on the west side, Jimmy Robles, Last Chance Ministries, helping 500 kids stay on the right path to success. Well, the city hasn't worked very close with them, to say the least. If I get an opportunity, I'll share with you that story.
Thank you, Chairman. Councilman?
Well, it shouldn't matter what side of town or what neighborhood you live in, you should be confident that you can have a great quality of life in your neighborhood. That's the basis, that's the vision for our San Antonio that we have not done well in. We do have drastic socioeconomic segregation that needs to be addressed in a number of ways. First is better infrastructure and service investment in the city of San Antonio. We know where there are areas of underinvestment, and we need to do better at investing not just within our bond, which I believe this one does, but we also have to look at our city budget, our annual budget, to ensure that those streets and sidewalks and drainage and all those basics that are invested in year after year are done in an equitable manner. In addition to that, a lot of this parity that we achieve is simply made more difficult by the fact that we have 16 different school districts in the city of San Antonio. We have 16 different borders, 16 different levels of attainment, of resources, of opportunity, to the point where school districts are competing with other school districts for talent and resources. That doesn't make for an equitable community, so I think that needs to be addressed by the city of San Antonio mayor, who can establish a vision to make sure that we have at least some consolidation of our school districts to make sure that there is parity, so that a child living in 78204 or 78201 or 258 or any of the other zip codes can be sure that their parents know, enrolled in a public school, that they will have a great school to go to and can expect a great educational outcome.
Thank you, Councilman. We've been talking a lot about different parts of the city and different needs from different parts of the city, so I wanted to get to this next question. And I love these questions, by the way. Can you, as mayor, or will you, as mayor, question to both of you, we'll start with you, Councilman, hold bi-monthly meetings with and at the four sides of San Antonio, the west side, the north side, the east side, the south side, to address issues pertinent to each area? Let's call it Siding with You Mayor's Meeting. And he or she put a little smiley face there. So will you commit to having bi-monthly meetings in different parts of the city to address the specific issues of each part of the city? You go first, Councilman.
If bi-monthly is all it takes, absolutely. But as a District 8 council member, I've had town halls every week to make sure that we're listening to our communities. I have town halls in elementary schools. I have town halls anywhere people will go to inform me about what the needs are in this community, and that's what you can expect from me as your mayor, is to always make sure that I'm listening better and working harder to ensure that your needs are met as residents of San Antonio. That is the standard we need to reach. This community deserves better leadership. This community deserves a voice no matter who you are or where you live. This community has expectations for a great city, and that's why I'm running for mayor.
My answer is yes. And in short, as chairman of the Democratic Party, we were used to an organization that would be around come election time. Well, I've turned it into a year-round operation, where we're in the community, talking with voters, identifying solutions, so that then we can bring them to the table and legislate on them. We've opened the doors, and we've had meetings across the city. We've established networks across the city, and that's why this last election we won 47 of 52 races, all 16 county-wide races, even elected a new sheriff in town, Javier Salazar. So it's about working with everybody, and that's what I'm about. As a businessman, I've learned working with everyone is path to success. As chairman of the party, as just explained, working with everyone is path to success. And this campaign, one of the things I'm most proud of is how we've been able to work with people and get support where people didn't expect us to. Inside the loop and outside the loop. People that make $2,000 a year, those that make $200,000 a year. And even, yes, we've brought together Democrats and Republicans. When have you ever seen a proud Democrat, chairman of the Bexar County Democratic Party, endorsed by the leadership of the Tea Party? And that's because we've put differences aside, identified common ground that we can get behind. And that's what we're doing in this campaign, and that's what I'll do as mayor of the city of San Antonio.
Thank you, Chairman. As I said, I appreciate all the questions. We're kind of running out of time, but the questions that I have not asked that I have in my hand will be scanned so the candidates can see them before they leave and as they're out on their day. We're going to start closing statements right now, and we're going in reverse order from opening statements. So, Councilman Nirenberg, you get the first closing statement.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here and for having us at the forum. I think these are extremely important questions to be answering so that you can be confident that you have a great city. Yesterday, we were at a forum, and I was described by, it was supposed to be kind of a jab, but I was described as a young man in a hurry when it came to our city. It's true, I turned 40. I didn't tell him I was going to the next day. But I feel like a young man in a hurry because I represent people who are getting older waiting for solutions. This community deserves strong leadership to make sure that everyone, no matter what part of town you live on, no matter what you do, no matter who you are, has a great city to live in, a great city to enjoy, and a great city to hand off to the next generation. I believe we need a modern transportation system for the city of San Antonio that gets you out of gridlock. I believe we need a booming economy that's creating great paying jobs that benefits all San Antonians. I believe we need to reverse the trend on violent crime so that you feel safe in your neighborhood and on your streets and in all public places. I believe you need leadership who you can trust because they're living up to the highest standards of integrity and they face real consequences if they violate that trust. And I certainly believe, because you're sitting in gridlock because we didn't do the job yesterday, that we have to be planning for the future. We have to make sure that we are doing right by ourselves today, but that we are also working hard for the future. And that means today's success and future prosperity go hand in hand. We cannot have one without the other. I am proud to be serving as your city council member in District 8. I will be proud to be your next mayor. My campaign is based on independent leadership that you need to make sure that you have a voice in City Hall. Not partisan politics, not wedge issues, and not bombast that you've gotten far too used to hearing from politicians. It's based on those issues that will make sure that you have a city that you can be proud of. Thank you very much. My name is Ron Nirenberg, and I hope to have your vote to be the next mayor of San Antonio.
Chairman Medina.
Thank you. Because of the hard work and the passion of everyone in this room, I'm living my American dream. It's going to be my responsibility as mayor to make sure that the next generation of Americans, people in San Antonio, can live their American dreams by ensuring safe neighborhoods, affordable housing, educational opportunity. Because this issue of the American dream is so personal to me. I was born in Mexico, and at the age of 3, my mom and I crossed the border, maybe swam a little, into McAllen. Then came to San Antonio, El Paso, Los Angeles, and worked our way around. I grew up as a DREAM Act student. I didn't know I didn't have any papers. I was just an American, speaking English, pledging allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, singing the Star-Spangled Banner. I didn't know I didn't have my papers till I was 17, when my friends wanted to go across the border into Mexico. I go to my mom, I say, Mom, I'm going to Mexico this weekend. She looks at me and says, no, you're not. And then I said, yes, I am. I'm going with my boys. I'm going to have a good time. She sits me down, tells me why, and I agree. I was not going to Mexico that weekend. But my point is, we all face challenges. And I saw how my parents, and I'm sure some of your parents and grandparents, whether they were from Europe, Africa, or Latin America, they simply did the job that they needed to do to get by. Pick the crops, wash the dishes, mow the lawns. But I've also seen how they've raised the next generation of Americans, doctors, engineers, architects, and why not, the next mayor of the city of San Antonio. After that, we all face challenges. And I tell my friends, yes, you face challenges, but you try growing up in Los Angeles as a fan of the San Antonio Spurs. That's a challenge. Eventually, I got my act together. I graduated from the University of Southern California with a degree in electrical engineering, a master's degree in electrical engineering. And I'm here today because I'm going to stand up, fight for, and speak up for you and the next generation of Americans so that we can all live our American dream. Muchas gracias y buenas noches.
I want to thank each of the candidates being with us this morning, now afternoon. I want to thank Palo Alto College for this great venue to have this debate. I want to thank the AARP for asking me to be involved in it. But most of all, I want to thank you for being here and taking part in this debate, whether you're at home, online, whether you're here in the audience. Is the next mayor of San Antonio standing on this stage? It's up for you to decide. I'm passionate about San Antonio, passionate about the city and its people, and I think by you being here, you are showing that same passion. So thank you, have a great day. Remember, early voting starts April 24th, Election Day is May 6th. Thank you all for being here.